Welcome to Who Lives Around the Corner, a new visual podcast with interviews of neighbors with a variety of unique interests and talents. And now the host of Who Lives Around the Corner, Mr. Dan Regan.
Hi, this is Dan Regan, your host for Who Lives Around the Corner, a podcast dedicated to human interest stories. And at the end of every podcast, we broadcast, if you know of anybody that it would be of interest for our podcast, please respond. And it was responded to us, how would you like to meet the strongest man in the world? I said, that sounds very interesting. So we called up, and we're going to have you very fortunate today to meet the strongest man in the world who goes in many different directions, Bill Scully. Bill, hi, this is Dan Regan.
Hey, Dan.
We want to welcome you to our podcast. You look like the strongest man in the world, but let's go back in your history. Tell me about where you were born.
I was born in New Jersey, in Little Falls, New Jersey. I'm going to be 67 next month. And my parents moved out to Jersey. They first lived in Stuyvesant Town in Manhattan. And we moved out there and they had me.
Tell us about when you grew up and you went, I understand you went to work for IBM. What'd you do for IBM?
I was a DPE, which is a Department Project Executive for IBM. And worked at all different businesses, John Deere, Blue Cross Blue Shield, L'Oreal.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And tell us about your interests. You have such varied interests. How did you get involved in wrestling?
Wrestling, real quick, my brother went to a game and told me I was going to be a short little you-know-what, and my friend coaches wrestling, and I went out for wrestling. And I started to get a lot of attention. I was winning. I was always a pretty strong kid, and it gave me a lot of attention and fed a lot into my who I was, and it gave me a lot of confidence in life. When I graduated, I had the freshman record from high school, the total wins, and I was most popular, class clown, athlete of the year, and personality plus.
That led you into powerlifting. How did that happen?
Back then there were magazines, there wasn't the internet, so I would pick up a magazine. In the back of the magazine, they had contests, and I would just walk in, not knowing the rules, not knowing anything, and I never really trained for it, but I just wanted to see what I could do. I did that a couple of times. I ran into two great brothers, Ben Marino brothers, one was a 17-time national champ, and I started training with them, and then I started getting success.
And that led you into becoming the strongest man in the world. What year was that?
2005.
Wow,
Yeah.
2005. And since then you put on a pot belly, a double chin.
And a smile.
And a smile.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Tell us about the strongest man in the world contest.
So, what happened was I didn't start powerlifting competing really until I was in mid-30s. And then so in my 40s, I started winning the nationals in the Masters, and I made the U.S. team. They take the national winner, and you represent the country. So I was on the U.S. team 6 times, and during that time, I lost to a Russian twice, who became world champ, and I did not. So I went after him, and finally in India, I ended up beating him, and it was pretty much a carrot stick. And once that carrot was gone, I pretty much stopped competing.
And you became the strongest man in the world. And after the strongest man in the world, you took on martial arts, I understand.
Yes, I love competing. So I had a wrestling background where I wrestled in college, and then I putzed into judo, and I was with my sensei was the Olympic coach, Gianni, down in Cranford, and I used to compete down there. And I took second in the state after like 6 months or 8 months of training, and won the regions and stuff like that. And then years
You
later,
always seem to rise to the top of the ladder.
it's a lot of work, and I don't know if I always rise. I've lost many a times.
Yeah,
But-
well, we all lost
yeah,
in
yeah,
life, but the idea is to get off and
Right.
come back and win.
And you lose more. I mean, you gain more from losing than you do from winning.
Yeah.
And it makes you hungry. When I lost in powerlifting, I lost by 5 pounds to 2 Russians. I put a 5-pound plate up on my rack, a gold plate, so that every time I didn't feel like lifting by myself in the basement, I'd look at that plate and I'd get my butt up and start lifting.
My friend Gerard tells me that you have dedicated a good part of your life now to helping people have less than you. Tell me about some of the people that you've helped.
So I went from judo to jujitsu, and then I went into kung fu, which was Gerard was sensei, and he's excellent, and Gerard DeCole, and he was training me, and we got to know each other because I was coaching his son. I was one of the coaches for his son, and I used that. During those times, I trained kids from high school, and one of the kids, and some other kids, and one of the kids was Timmy, who had
That's the fellow that was in the wheelchair.
he had cerebral
What did you
palsy.
train him in?
He
Yeah, he had cerebral palsy.
right. So he could stand up and everything. So I changed my equipment. I figured out how to use his things he could do and couldn't do. And by the end of it, he deadlifted, and now again he couldn't bend down and pick it up, but off the power rack he lifted up 405 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I understand now that you're continuing your community efforts into people with different diseases.
Well, yeah. I in the past I trained a kid that had Down syndrome, and I took him to a tournament, a bench tournament, and
What did you train him in?
powerlifting. So
Powerlifting.
yeah, bench press. So
With Down syndrome.
yeah, and we went to a tournament, had fun. That was decades ago, and then now I'm retired from IBM, so I wanted to do something positive with my life.
Right.
And I'm not a golfer or anything like that, so I really have a lot of some time. And I put that, and I figured, you know what? Let me help. There's a kid across the street that had Down syndrome, and a kid next to me that is autistic, and so now I'm starting to train them, and I'm trying to figure out what works with them and what doesn't work, and because everybody's with autism at different stages.
Yes.
And same thing with Down syndrome.
That's
So-
a wonderful thing that you've dedicated your life to.
Yes, I want to get better.
Keeps you out of mischief.
It's that's, if it could, I would really like that. That'd be a great trade-off.
Well, where do you see yourself going in the future?
I want to get better at it. I want to establish more of a routine for each kid, and I'd like to just give back to society. I think we're all here. We're all put on this earth, and we need to help each other when we can. And
I think if you take your powerlifters, your martial art people, and let them do what you're doing, and you spread it around the Eastern Seaboard or even nationally, it would really help these people with deficiencies.
I think so too. I think because when I talk to some of the parents, they don't get a lot of activity. And it's very important to exercise the body, because the body takes care of the mind takes care of the body. It's all connected. And you feel much better about yourself when you work out. So I'm hoping to do that with them. I mean, to give them more confidence and
Is your
self-esteem.
wife giving you enough room to roam around the world spreading
wife
your
has
gospel?
My wife and my kids, I missed a lot of games and things like that because
Yeah.
traveling with IBM and traveling with powerlifting. But yes, they've all been great. I'm very blessed. I have a beautiful wife, beautiful kids, both healthy. My kids give back to society. One is a registered dietitian for Cleveland Clinic in Ohio. The other one is a teacher in Patterson at Science and Technology School.
Wonderful.
Teaching. So they both are giving back, which is a beautiful thing.
I want to thank you for this podcast. I think you're a terrific individual and you're doing so much to help society. Keep up the good work.
And I thank you for this opportunity.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
If you have or know of a neighbor with a unique interest or talent, please get in touch with us with their contact information and please include their unique interest or talent. Email us at wholivesaroundthecorner@gmail.com. Goodbye for now, Thank you for joining us for this edition of Who Lives Around the Corner, a new visual podcast of neighbors with a variety of unique interests and talents, with host Dan Regan. Brought to you by Rockland World Radio and Modern Metro Studios.